Whoop, new tool to do a review on. Look for that video soon. How you guys doing this morning? Thanks for tuning in. Glad you're here. I'm Jimmy. I'm making it work. We're gonna spend a day in a shop. Not a day in the dark though. I gotta put on some lights, get this thing fired up, get the shop open up, ready to go. Compressors are running. We have got a lot going on. We got a big job on that Tahoe. We got a couple other big SUVs we're working on. I'm not sure what's going to happen yet today, but you're going to know in a second. If you want to watch these previews, if not, skip ahead about 15 seconds if you don't want any hints. These brakes on this here Tahoe from yesterday. 2020 Toyota Yaris. I'm blessed with this F-150. She's cooking. We have got us a beautiful morning this morning. It's about 68 degrees, very low humidity, maybe 40-50% I would guess. Really nice out. I'm assuming it'll get warm again today though, like it normally does in the 80s. So hope the weather's nice where you're at and it's not too chilly. Been seeing some unusual weather, some fires in New Jersey and stuff. If you're up in that area, man, I'm thinking about you. That's pretty bad up there. You need some rain. It hasn't rained here much either, but it's not that dry yet. But we'll see what happens with all that. That's my weather forecast for today. Mostly what I do, if you're new here, is I'm a mechanic. I don't really do the weather too much, but I've been a mechanic for a long time, probably longer than half my viewers have been alive. But that just doesn't mean you're too young, just means I'm too old. We like to have some fun around here. We always try to do our best to learn a thing or two. I don't know everything. Some of you probably know way more than me, but you're not making videos, so we're gonna all work together as a team, a community, and see if we can get some cars fixed. Maybe I can help you with yours. Maybe you can give me a tip if you work at a specific dealer and you see me struggling with something. I figure things out, but I ain't the smartest, what do they call it? I ain't the sharpest knife in the drawer. Is that how they used to put it? I forget. One of the old slogans my grandpa used to use in general, not about me. Enough horsing around and flapping. Let's finish getting this place open up and get started. Stay tuned. All right, first thing today, we're going to finish up these brakes on this here Tahoe from yesterday. I did the 3 wheels yesterday. This is it. Transfer the hose over is the only thing I think I didn't show yesterday, so I do it last. Just seems easier to me. I got a garbage can for a catch-all. Now sometimes these copper washers are hard to get off. It comes with new hardware and all, so I give it a tap on something metal, get a little bit of a gap. Use my flush cutters that cut soft metals and wires and stuff and cut that copper washer there. For some reason they like to get over compressed and dig into the threads on these, so this works. We got all new goodies. Bolt washer, hose washer, and there's a flat side. Obviously faces the caliper. If you try to tighten it the other way, it's not going to tighten. You end up with a leak. Now this is pouring brake fluid the whole time, but we're going to do a brake flush too, so no big deal. You can see how nasty the fluid is. I'll show you in a minute. But these things are very sensitive to brake flushes, or lack of. It's an aluminum caliper. Go pretty snug, and then I'll have someone step on the brake pedal, or I'll start the engine and put my hood prop on the brake pedal, and I'll come back here and verify it's not seeping brake fluid. You can generally feel it if you put your foot on the pedal and wait. If the pedal's good at first, but sinks a little at a time, then you know you probably got a slow leak. So you got to take a look at that. I'll start the bleeding process while I this little rubber cap and the brake fluid on my fingers isn't helping. What the hell? It's the hardest brake bleeder cap to get off ever. I don't want to dump it in the garbage either. I'll have to fish it out if I do. Caliper's already in there. The little things are hard. Putting an engine in, easy. Taking a rubber cap off the bleeder, hard. All right, that's how you want it. I'll take the cap off the old caliper, that's all. That's for the couple of guys that keep telling me flushing brake fluid is a rip-off. There you go. Nasty. Preliminary gravity bleed, and then we'll get the tools on it. You guys see my other videos where I hook this vacuum container up, pull it with a vacuum pull rather than just waiting for it. It just does it faster. And put my little filled bottle on the master cylinder and open this valve, and it uses hydrodynamics to keep the master cylinder full while you bleed the brakes. We do about a half a bottle on each wheel, so I'll have to fill that container twice. Fluid's pretty nasty. That's looking pretty good. And equalize. Give it a second to gravity bleed. A little brake clean, rubber cap, onto the next wheel. This thing's so nasty. I'm gonna clean it before I even take it apart. How about that? And then when I get the valve cover off, I can clean it by itself in the parts washer. It'll be like a new car. This thing is nasty. Sometimes people will sell a valve cover gasket because they see black around the gasket. This one was leaking, so we're gonna be doing some good here. I like that. That's before and that's after. Pull my heater hoses out of the way. I get this bracket off so it's not fumbling around in there. Now you can take the entire coil bridge off the valve cover, get it out of your way, or you can leave the coil bridge on the valve cover and the bolts are in between the coils. Easier to see with it out of the way. The injectors, we should be able to pull this harness up this way, out of our way, and leave them plugged in. Once I get this out, because it kind of traps it, the convoluted tubing's all crumbling. We'll have to blow that with a blowgun before we pull the valve cover off. One connector right here for all the coils. Super convenient. Little standoff back here goes on a stud on the coil bracket. There's a nut here to get this out of the way. You'll be able to see the valve cover. It looks real messy, but it's actually some of the easiest. There's 4 bolts holding the valve cover on. It's one of the easiest ones to do. This neck's not in there right, it looks like. Something's going on. Sometimes what happens normally is if you force this out of the valve cover, you're supposed to do it from inside. And if you don't release the little lock from inside, you break it, and then it doesn't stay tight in the valve cover. So probably should get a new filler tube. At this point you can pull those 4 spark plug wires off and then lift the valve cover off with the coils, or you can unbolt the coil bracket and set it to the side with the wires still on it. I did take the coil wires off just to make it easier, I think, because I forgot the dipstick bracket kind of traps everything. So to lay the coil bridge off to the side, the only bolt that's hard to get to for the coil bridge is the last one back by the firewall. Right back there. See it? This little guy right here. I forgot that last bolt's blocked by the coil a little bit. Been a while. I'm going to put some brake clean on a rag and wipe around that gasket surface, and not use a Rulock disc. If I see you putting a Rulock disc on that valve cover gasket surface, I'll slap it out of your hand. Just a heads up. You got to put these on the bolts too. Pretty easy. Take the old one, get it off the washer. Cut it. Not putting it back on anyway, right? A little bit of a chore to get it over that shoulder, but not bad. Boom. This helps press the gasket into the head. Without these being replaced, the gasket just kind of lays on the head. This is the tension right here. Really important. He's looking into getting me a filler neck. You can see that filler neck isn't flush with the valve cover, but I'm not going to rip it out of there because it tends to break them. I think that's already been done, but I'm not going to make it worse if we can't get one. We have to order it or something. And then I said, oh man, the camera's not on. I apologize. It's coming from O'Reilly's. They have it in stock. Apparently everybody breaks them. There you go. Well, we're better looking. What do you expect? Plus we don't bitch too, so that helps. That's the little tab. I couldn't see it because there was a lot of trash going on in there. I couldn't see the tab to release the little button, get it out of there, but we're all right. I did have to take this loose. If you look at it, you can't see it in the truck as easily, but it blocks that bolt. So I tried to turn this one at open end from here, and the open end wouldn't do it because there was too much of an angle. So then I said, you know what, take that coil off of there, I can get to that bolt. So that's what you call executive decision, I guess. Got to make sure this gasket's seated in there all the way around. It retains it pretty well, but only if it's seated all the way in and the surface is dry and clean. I cleaned it in the parts washer, which is way too nasty to film, and then I used brake clean to clean off the tar that we use in the parts washer and dry everything off. This is just Rock Rum oil splash. Shows you how the oil actually cleans the carbon. Almost like someone had skipped a few oil changes and then started doing it again. Now it's starting to clean some of the carbon off of there. Got that pretty clean. I'm going to put it back together. The filler neck can go in afterwards. You just put it in and click, turn about 90 degrees, I believe, from the last time I did one. Find a threaded hole in there. It's in there. It's a little standoff in the cylinder head. Times 4. Yeah, that coil. Last thing is the valve cover breather to air inlet. What if CAT really spells dog? Now this one has the PCV valve in it, and you can get to all the bolts for the coil bracket easier. There's no dipstick in the way. So this one I'll leave the wires on, tuck it to the side. That's what I remember. But how do you say it? 5 bolts, I think it is. Which direction? That way. Okay. And if you guys weren't watching, nobody would know I did that. I could edit it out. I don't want to. At least that main connector's unplugged. So nice. See what I'm saying? It's like a whole valve cover right there. 4 8mm. I'm going to clean that off some more. That's nasty. The coil bridge blocks a lot of stuff. Uh-oh, my nozzle's clogged. I had a nickel for every time I said that. 106 inch-pounds. These are on a standoff. It's basically a big spacer. Torque's not as critical. I still like to do it. You just mostly don't want to come loose, want them to come loose, and you don't want to pull the threads out of the head. So when you torque it, you get a pretty good idea. You know you're in the ballpark. That's the whole purpose. Even though torquing them from the factory didn't stop them from leaking, right? Why does that feel way tighter than that? Must be because my torque wrench is so little. I felt like I was going to 30 foot-pounds, but that's the whole purpose of a torque wrench. I probably had them about 85, 90 foot-pound, inch-pounds, and they're supposed to be 106, so they weren't quite tight enough. Tighter than I really felt comfortable, to tell you the truth. I backed my torque wrench down to 106, to 100, and torqued them to that, and then I went back up to 106, torqued them to that, and feels pretty dang tight, I'll tell you. That's a little tiny bolt this size, 6mm or so. You can torque these if it makes you feel better too. I'm not gonna. It was around there somewhere. Just waiting on a filler neck. Filler neck's here. That's the little catch. This is what you have to release to get these out properly. Really hard to see with it in the valve cover. If you look down in there, you can kind of see it. If I hold it up to the sunlight, maybe. But putting it in is easy. And it definitely could be a source of a leak. I might have to move this hose out of the way. Ugh. I shouldn't have said putting it in was easy, huh? I know, I can't help myself sometimes. I'm probably gonna take this bracket back off because I said that. It drops in right there, so yep. Take that bracket off. Get back here. Where do you think you're going? Perfect. Now, the last thing on this monstrosity is TPMS light. I cleared the codes. They're out. It's out now. Oh, I was going to go on a long test drive and the fuel level low, light is on. So much for that. Okay. I did put a battery in there too and some wiper blades. I didn't film that. It's boring. Nobody wants to see that. So much for the long test drive. We're going to go on a short one, but I do want to see just long enough to see which TPMS sensor might be not working. It had a code for left rear sensor. There it is. We'll see if we get some data. Should be any second. Oh, there it is. Something's happening. Those are speed sensors, not TPMS sensors, I just realized. Let me get the correct data up. That's why I got the data so soon. Usually with TPMS, you got to go 8 miles an hour or so to activate the batteries and the sensors. So this is the wrong data. We'll come back once I bring up tire pressure data, not tire speed data. I can only get TPMS data in the dash. since it's low on gas, I'm only going to go to the light and then back to the shop. But we're getting somewhere. We've got some tire pressure data. The left rear is not reading, so we got a sensor that's weak. I wish I could find a scan tool, but I looked in the EBCM, the BCM, the ECM, and the TCM, and I can't find tire pressure sensor data. Very odd. Maybe I'll try a different scanner when we get back. I'm going to air up the tires too. There should be about 35. I don't think 30. I got to look in the door jam and see. I'm totally guessing. They are, the other three that are reading are about the same, so maybe that's right. But we did get some things done. We're going to burn off any of the remnants from cleaning under the hood and doing the valve covers. We're going to seat the pads to the rotors really well. So all that stuff's good. The oil change was just done. Oil's full and clean. This thing's basically good to go. Once we get that, if he wants to fix a TPMS, we'll go a little further. And we'll come back to this one if he does. If not, we'll be doing something else when we come back. Got a car with a dead battery. We can try out the JP400, see how it does on that. Gotta line this up. It's about 3/4 charge. We should be good. 7.8 volts. There you go. The JP400 did a good job in that regard. 2020 Toyota Yaris. And a check engine light on. And 68,828 loving miles. She's been wrecked and repaired. If you've seen a lot of my other alignment videos, you know what could happen. Either it's going to be perfect and not really need anything, or it's going to be a catastrophe and it's bent stuff they missed. That's how the body shop stuff tends to come over here. And the batteries are almost always dead on them too. 50% of the time, I guess, the batteries are dead. I don't know what they do over there. I'm guessing work on them with the doors open or something. But in any event, my little JP400 got it started up. I wasn't sure if that little tiny jump box would do it, but the battery was so dead that it went click and all the dash lights went out. I checked it for connections. The connections were good, so that battery was just stone dead. Probably had 6 volts in it or something. When I hooked up the jump box, it said 7 volts actually. Get this thing set up, get a wheel alignment going. They're not interested in the check engine light or anything. Just a wheel alignment. I'd say it's a love rating of 8, but the body shop's probably cleaned it. A 16-inch wheel. Roll it forward, compensate the alignment machine heads. A little gush of air releasing, let you know it's happy with your compensation. Now I'll put the pedal depressor and we'll go ahead and sweep the caster. An alien in there or something? That's nice. That's going to be a set the toe and let her go. Let's see here. Just got to bump both wheels in a little bit, I believe. Let's put it on bar graph. It's a little easier to see. Show bar graphs. I think it's a 14 hex, maybe a 13. I brought them both. Wow. I didn't think a 3-year-old car would be frozen already. Alright. I also don't want to smash my hand into this bracket right here, so a little wrench reposition never hurts. The old gear wrench spread on it and did not turn it. Alright. Let's get some superior tools. Let's see if the tie rod claw can do it. Huh? It did it. I went the wrong way just to break it loose, so I didn't have to risk smashing into that, but I think we'll be alright. Now that it's broken loose.
One more wheel like that. This thing's gonna be so green. Ugh. I'm being very quiet because nobody likes a bragger. Now that we're done with the alignment, I didn't run it much. We'll see if it'll start though, but nope. I left it on to see what it would do. I think it timed out 7.6. It might start this car, but it's getting discharged. Nope. I gotta charge it. If you get the red blinky light, you gotta charge it. And you give it a few minutes and you can jump start a car again. No one's been blessed with the green Porsche yet, but I'm blessed with this F-150 with the broken gas door. She looks a little rough. Oh yeah, yeah. Someone likes sunflower seeds. Delicious. Ooh, this poor thing. Just be glad we don't have smell-o-vision. That's all I'm gonna say. Only 121,000 miles. 2004 Ford F-150 Lariat. Top of the line. Let's start it up and see how top of the line it is. Oh, that's no good. It's shaking and running rough, and a check engine light and ABS light are on. Uh-oh. Doesn't seem to have the power to get out of the grass. That's bad. I'm going to turn this way a little bit. Oh my goodness gracious. Is this thing going to make it to the shop? I don't know. I'm going to nurse it in there and get it in my bay, and we'll come back. I'm surrounded by junk cars and driving one. We got a lot of them. He still hasn't picked up the Jeep that I got to start. Not sure why, but last I heard he was upset. It took so long and he wants it back, and that was Monday or so. Anyway, not my concern. Carry on. And this thing is not running good. I'm gonna guess cam timing codes, and I heard rattling starting it up. So maybe a cam is stuck in a bad spot. Usually on these, before you do too much work, if my hunch is correct, you want to take a valve cover off, take a cam bearing cap off, and see if it's scored. If it's scored, it needs an engine. So we changed the oil last. What did I say the mileage was? 121,591 miles. We changed it last, and it was due at 112,039. So it's like 9,000 miles overdue. No big deal. Gonna give it a love rating of 2. I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of vehicle would lock the keys in the car to protect you so you don't drive it. I'm gonna check the oil before I even get the scanner. About a quart low, a little more. Well, we know it needs an oil change. The question is, does it need an engine and an oil change? Let's get the scanner. Oh look, it's not on auto. And it's on the coldest possible setting known to man. Let's see what kind of codes we got. Make ourselves a report to send up front. Then we'll take a look at the codes together. Well, we got some codes. We got CAN bus codes. Error from external node. That's in the 4x4 control module. Basically the transfer case. Anti-lock brakes. Rear center wheel speed sensor input circuit fault. Now, it could be disconnected. Could be the sensor's bad. I've even seen where there's tons of metal on the sensor because it's a magnet, and if the rear end's starting to get some wear and tear, it ends up with metal on it, especially in these trucks. So you'd have to pull it out and take a look at it to verify that before you do anything. Probably be a good idea if it's not too rusty. CAN error in cluster. PCM P0011 intake cam over advanced, P0012 intake cam over retarded. Both of those are on bank 1. That's concerning. That means the tensioner is probably not doing what it's supposed to do. It's either clogged from sludge or the tensioner itself's just gone bad. it's letting cam timing move too much. Bank 2 also says over advanced, P0021. So we definitely have some timing issues. We got cylinders 2, 3, and 4. I don't know why it didn't flag number 1. They're all on this bank 1. And if the cam's moving around and not being where it's supposed to be, it'll have misfires on that bank. And when the tensioners go bad, it tends to favor that bank. That's the side the tensioner's on, although it does affect the whole engine overall. We're going to take a look now in the PCM and see if that's what we're going to see in the cam data looking at it live, just like the codes. And it is not running good. I was hoping to find desired and actual. Let me pick out some data PIDs here related to cam timing. I was wondering why I couldn't find the cam timing. It's under V. It makes sense. Camshaft position sensor status. And that's just telling you that the sensors are okay, not that the cam timing is. Misfires. 2700. Cam timing 2 advanced error. It wants a maximum of -40 to 60 and it's at 66, 68. Variable cam timing 2 status, no error. Advanced error. Well, that's conflicting. This is bank 1. Timing 2 is bank 2. No cylinder bank designation, should be 1. Okay, how much error and how much actual, I suppose. Same thing on the other side. So this is looking bad for the timing chain. Go to graph. I'm going to combine, and I don't want to see that one. I don't want to see that one. When you do the combined screen, you only get 4, which is fine. I'm just trying to figure out which ones I want to see the most. Variable cam timing actual advance. Variable cam timing 2 advance error. Variable cam timing actual advance. Variable cam timing advance error. This is where the cam timing is, and this is the error because it should not be here. Variable cam timing 2 actual advance. Variable cam timing advance error. If it shows 64 degrees of error, it must want it at 64 degrees, I suppose, because otherwise it wouldn't say there's an error when it's not showing much discrepancy on the actual. That means what it wants and what it's at, these are the 2 errors. We can go back and unselect those 2. Let's put just the errors in. Advance error, advance error. Now I can take away the misfires. I'm going to bring the RPM off of idle. It actually runs a lot better off idle. It doesn't run perfect, but it runs better. So what that tells me is the engine can handle a cam timing being retarded at a higher speed than idle. At idle, it doesn't want to see any of that because there's so much overlap that it'll cause misfires and make it run really bad. And this is where it ran decent. This is where it doesn't. I'm going to take a screenshot of that in case they want to see it. We're basically going to have to pull the timing cover and the valve covers off of this and get a look at the physical cam timing. It's going to be just what I see here. Probably the phasers are stuck, going bad. The springs inside them that go bad. There are lockout kits you can get to bypass all that stuff, but we tend to not want to do that kind of stuff here. We want to fix it. We want to fix it correctly, OEM style. The hot rod stuff is generally what I do on my own stuff. I don't like to do it on customers' cars because when it goes wrong, you've just customized it, and just not a good long-term plan. So let me go see up front how far they want to go if we want to dig into this thing. The fact that he's 9,000 miles overdue on an oil change, that doesn't help much. If he is serious about fixing it, we're going to pull the valve covers off on the way to doing a timing chain job. But first, pull the valve covers off, pull off the main cam bearing cap from each side, see if they're scored. If they're scoring in the cap, then the cam's been starved for oil and the engine's junk. Because what happens is the oil ports plug from lack of maintenance, and it does some damage, and there's no point putting $3,000 into a timing chain and then putting an engine in 2 months later, you know. So we'll see what happens with this one if we go any further. Don't even say it. I don't want to hear it. Customer of ours just bought this. Just bought this gem, and those hood shocks have been bad a while. I'm gonna have to find something to hold the hood up. it's got some check engine light issues and stuff. So he just bought it and he wants us to check it out after. That's what we're gonna do. And is that the original belt? It's a 2014, but I'll tell you what, she got some mileages on her. We're gonna go inside and I'll show you that in a second. I'm getting a preliminary look around here to see what kind of nonsense, what stuff is going on. Supposedly someone looked at it here and said it had some purge codes. I come back from lunch and it's in my bay. Boom. So let's a lot of people put air filters in these and leave hoses off and stuff. Oh, it's not bolted on anymore. I wonder where the bolt is. It's supposed to be right there. Okay, we'll worry about that after. Let's grab a scanner, hop inside, and see what we see in there. 182,535 miles. It's clean, like used car lot style clean, and it has that used car lot style spray smell in it. That might go away. It's got some air fresheners. Maybe that's what I smell. Something. I've found that when you go by what someone else does, you end up playing with immobilizer systems and stuff that have nothing to do with the problem. I'm not saying nothing, I'm just saying. If it has purge codes, and intermittent extended crank is what I'm being told, those two could go together. If a purge valve sticks open, then it draws too many fuel vapors, saturates the intake with fuel vapors, and it'll crank and not start for a little while and then finally kick over. Outside temperature --F. That means it's not reading the outside temperature for one reason or another. We'll go Toyota. 2016, I thought it was a 2014. Poor thing. The problem with a used car like this, to me, this is just me, I'm pretty foolish when it comes to cars, because being a mechanic, I'd rather have a monthly payment and not have to work on my own stuff, because I do it for a living all day. And I don't want to work on my own stuff unless it's like my project truck, which is a toy. I can tinker with it when I feel like it and not work on it to make it to work. You know what I mean? So for me to buy a car with 182,000 miles on it, the transmission goes out, it's probably $6,000. Why not spend $6,000 more up front and buy a car that has 82,000 miles on it instead? That's just how I justify doing it. I bought new. I don't know, that's just how I think. You guys tell me what you think in the comments. If you were going to buy a vehicle, not already owning it, like if they bought it new and they just kept going, they maintained it the whole time, they know the whole history of the car, I can see that. Just my thoughts on the matter. I want your input too. I want you to tell me what you think in the comments. Would you buy a used car with 182,000? I guess if you got it for $1,000, the tranny goes, you just junk it. If you get a couple years or a year or two out of it, you're ahead of the game. You didn't have a payment, right? I kind of feel for them. They're doing what they got to do. At least they bought a Toyota. I told them Toyota, Honda, and bring it in before you buy it. But that part they didn't do. Let's try to figure this out for them. I'll stop flapping, get these codes, send a report, and we'll come back and go over them. Oh, I didn't send a report yet. Let me do that, because if I skip the way I normally do things, what does that say? 293,761. You see that? The computer thinks the mileage is 293,000, but the cluster thinks it's 182. That's another problem. All right, come on, man. This thing needs a kickstand. I bought one too, but it doesn't. It's made out of metal, and I thought it said adhesive on it, but it's not, so I'm going to get another one. Trust me, I'm working on it. I'm leaving the mileage. That's what the computer thinks it has. That's what I think it has. I'm sending a support. Then I'm going to come back. All right. Evap, incorrect purge flow, usually means sticking open. System large leak, that comes from a purge valve sticking open. We have them current, we have them pending. More of the same in the ECM module directly. This is OBD2. This is factory ECM. Startability malfunction. Toyota sets that P1604. If you crank and it doesn't start for whatever reason and you let off the key, it sets that code. Nothing to be concerned about. It just means it gave you a hard start or you gave up too soon. We got seatbelt codes, ambient air temp sensor code, which is why the dash shows no temperature. That could be a factor in the way it runs as well, although I don't know what the default is. You would think it would default to 80 degrees or something, but who knows for sure. Turn signal open and trunk open and turn signal circuit open and one's current, one's history. Lost comet nav module. Now we'll clear all the codes. I'm going to go out to the purge valve. We'll start it up, see if it's flowing vacuum when it shouldn't be. If you have any doubt, you unplug the electrical connector, and if you can still feel the vacuum on the side that goes to the tank, you're going to get a vacuum from the engine to it, but it should be closed and not flowing vacuum unless the computer is commanding it to open. So that's what we're going to check first. These codes are permanent in OBD2. See, I cleared them. It came out of the factory direct ECU, but in the OBD2 it stayed. These codes won't clear until it's driven and passed the tests. Once the car runs all the monitors and passes those tests, then it'll clear those codes from memory. So let's fire it up and go out and see if that purge valve leaks vacuum. Yeah, I feel a little vacuum, but not bad. And of course, it doesn't take much. If it leaks any vacuum, it's bad. And I don't hear it clicking yet. If this was being activated, I hear it clicking. I can also look at the data and make sure it's at 0. I'm going to put a vacuum gauge on it. Then we'll bring up the data and we'll take a look. I really need a more sensitive vacuum gauge. So you can see this is at 0. See the 0. You see my gauge when I pull it off the purge valve very closely. See the needle move? I really need a better gauge. I'm going to let it sit a minute because leaving this at 0 and letting this run a second, it should build up a vacuum if it leaks a little bit, so that the needle will move a noticeable amount when I pull it off. If it just has the tiniest little bit of vacuum leak, it's bad. There's 0 tolerance, because when it's doing a test, it closes the purge, it closes the vent, and it watches the fuel tank pressure and the canister pressure sensor. And if they bleed up, then it says there's a leak. And if that leaks at all, it's going to bleed up even quicker than atmosphere, because it's pulling a vacuum. And atmosphere is going to maintain some pressure on it, right? Was it 14.7 pounds per square inch? Yeah, I didn't see it move that time. Interesting. I got another one just like it. Got it. I saved this from some old Ford EGR DPFE systems. It's a soft silicone exhaust hose. There is something else we can do. Put this up where we can see it and hit the gas. Look at that blue point. Oh yeah, it's even blue, so you know it's blue point. I think it was here. Let's hit the gas, see if we can see something happening. Inconclusive. That one time I definitely got a what happens on these, the solenoids stick. And may not even do it all the time. I'm determined to try it and show you though. Like I said, this is so unsensitive, it has to be pretty bad for it to show up. I'm gonna get a good one eventually. Now it opened, so now we got vacuum. It's trying to see if it pulls on the tank probably. Full engine vacuum now. So now if I pull the hose off, you're not going to doubt whether you see it or not. See the pulse? I'm letting it leak. That's the duty cycle of the purge valve. The computer doesn't just open it. It's opening and closing and duty cycling it. If it wants it halfway open, it turns it on and off 50% of the time, right? So it does work. I just have to see if I can get it to leak. I'm going to go in manual test and open and close the purge valve repeatedly and see if my vacuum does what it's supposed to do. Alright, it won't let me do the purge test with the engine run, so I'm going to do it myself. I get the vacuum gauge right here. I don't want to short anything out. Somewhere around here we go. There it is. That's good. Ground's good. and I'll unplug the electrical connector and we'll watch the vacuum. So with the intake vacuum here and this closed, we should be able to hold our vacuum unless my gauge leaks. See the vacuum gauge bleeding up? That means this purge valve is leaking. Now I can get a clamp and I can clamp the rubber hose on the other end, but all it's going to do is prove that the purge valve is leaking like we already know, because it shouldn't be changing. There's no leaks in my setup here. I plug the electric connector back in. Whoop. There's our vacuum. Pull it back off. Now it's holding. It didn't hold the last time. I'll shut the engine off. Now with the engine off, I've stopped letting it pull a vacuum and the gauge is dropping. So the valve is leaking. Does that make sense? It's very slow though, but like I said earlier, any leak is no good. I am going to lift it up. We'll take a look at the canister and all those hoses and stuff like that and see if there's any other problems as well. 180,000 miles. I mean, I've seen these things with canisters that split on the seams and stuff like that too. So maybe we'll put a little smoke under there depending on what we see. If there's anything borderline, we'll smoke test it. I don't think that's supposed to be bent like that, but this is all broken. Not the end of the world, but just not how it's supposed to be. Is that even the same line? Nope, there it is. Goes up to the tank, or over the tank to the canister in the back. It should be, because the purge pulls out of the canister, not out of the tank. The tank vents the canister, the purge pulls from the canister, and this is the vent here, goes to this tube up to the filler neck. So these things are, you got to drop this cradle to get to that canister. You can't really even see anything in there. I can see it looks like it's original. That's usually not a good sign, because this is one of the problems these have. I don't see anything crushed like from a collision or anything silly like that. Just those tubes out of place a little bit. But let me see if they want to smoke test this or just put a purge on it and see how it goes from there. I don't see anything visible from what I can see. I don't see anything visibly concerning. Well, customer doesn't want to get too deep in it. If the check engine light has to be on, so be it. But I went in here and I cleaned this gas cap already. That's original. I cleaned the gasket and the surface, but something I was putting it on, I noticed. It says tighten until one click. It doesn't click. So I'm going to say purge valve and a gas cap, and it will probably fix it. But that little pump on that canister I'm very concerned about. It's such a common failure. Getting to it is a pain. There's that little thing on the canister is also a vacuum pump. So when the engine's not running and can test it with the car off, with the engine off, between 5 and 9 hours after sitting with the key off, it'll run that little pump on the canister and try to pull a vacuum on the system. Now if the purge valve leaks, it won't pull a vacuum. If the gas cap leaks, it won't pull a vacuum. Or if that pump is bad, it won't pull a vacuum. And since we're on a budget, this purge valve and that gas cap, I know that gas cap doesn't click and it's bad. I know that purge valve leaked. That's where we're gonna start. So we'll see what happens with this one. Look at that son of a gun. She's cooking. That's where the cable goes. This is where, when the solenoid closes, it sends the current from the battery directly to this. And this is heat, which means bad connection. We're going to measure the amperage on the new one. All right, we got the amp clamp on. We got it on max. We're going to see what the max current is with the new starter. Oh, that sounded nice. Crank's a little different now. I've done it. One more time.
Shut it off?
Yeah. Shut it off and start it up again. Thank you, sir. It's saying it pulls twice as much amper as the other one when it cranks at twice the speed.
That's crazy. That thing fires like
Vroom.
right now.
Before the other
didn't
star
it?
was going roll, roll,
Yeah.
roll. Vroom. So it cranks up and starts correctly. Yay! Uh-oh. All right. Starter's all set. We're all done for today. I think this customer's going to come get this. He's at the Disney World campground. So we got to get him on the road. That's what matters the most. They're working on the Camry estimate. No other cars out in the parking lot besides an Audi SUV out there. So eventually I got this old F-150 out here, this 91 we've been talking about for a while. Little by little, we're getting closer and closer to getting that one in. And that green Porsche, I'm thinking we're going to end up looking at the green Porsche. At least to get an idea for the guy what, you know, the car, it's like a $600 car. So I'm wondering, the other place said they wouldn't even attempt to fix it. So I'm wondering what's going to happen when we give him an estimate on it. He may just come get it. But we'll see, you never know. So thanks for watching today's video, guys. I'm going to end it here. If I get something else done, then I'll add to it. It'll be a bonus footage. But thanks for watching. Torque the like button before you head out. Don't forget, check out the Amazon store with the holidays coming up. I'm adding new things. Any of the tools that I use in the video that I think you might enjoy, I'll put links in the description, or you can check them out in the Amazon store. I'll have them in there too. So hope I see you in the next one more than anything, because you're awesome.